he says that God says about himself that he is exalted in all of the levels. He doesn't say exalted at one level, at the highest level. He says exalted in the levels. And isn't it the wisdom of Aaron to acknowledge that? And so when people worship the calf, from one point of view that would be idolatry. But from another point of view, Aaron realizes that because of weakness, because of coming into this world, human passion is what turns to whatever seems like is beautiful. So, for example, if I was going to worship something, I wouldn't worship the calf, I would worship the rose, you see? Because you look at it and you could look at it for 1,000 years because it's so beautiful. You could just forget all the rest of your life and just put all the rest of it looking into the rose. It would be more useful because it's so beautiful. Well, how did it get to be so beautiful? Is the question. What did the Sufi say? How did it get to be so beautiful? Huh? Do not the Sufi say that it's not belong to it, the beauty doesn't belong to it. The Sufis say that wujud only belongs to God. But wujud, if we say, how shall we understand wujud? Pure wujud we cannot see. That'd be like saying pure existence. You know who Heidegger is? You guys know Heidegger? Existentialist. So Heidegger says, existence in and of itself is difficult to know, but if you want to see the most intense manifestation of existence, it is beauty. Do you remember in Spy the Heart, Ustad Khalili says to me as a Westerner, he says, so you're a Westerner, he says, do you believe in God? I say, yes, I believe in God. He says, why do you believe in God? Do you remember? What did I say?
I don't remember what you said, but I remember that part.
I said, because of beauty. Because this is the truth. When I was a child in Tahiti, I'm looking at the sunset, I'm looking at the beauty, and I say, and I'm overtaken by an experience that this can only be God. Meaning, I don't even know about God. This is only like some very immense being, you see, has made all this beauty. So, there's a hadith, Inna Allaha Jamilun Yuhibul Jamal. We talked about this, huh? You guys know this hadith? Truly Allah is beautiful, the most beautiful, and God loves beauty. So I'm saying that I would rather worship this than the calf, but I wasn't there, so I don't know what was so attractive about the calf. What the Sufis say is that what happened is that Jibril came on a horse, and we know in Quran and Hadith and Tariq that he came on a horse, Tashakur, and the hooves of the horse touched the ground. And who was it that made the calf? What was his name?
Samiri.
Yeah. So Samiri noticed Jibril coming on the horse and saw that where the hooves touched, and he went and grabbed some of the earth from where the Jibril's the hooves had touched the ground, and he threw it into the pot where he was melting the gold. Where did he get the gold? Yeah, he said, give me your gold. I'm going to make an idol for you to worship, huh? I'm going to make you a god that you can worship. And at that point, the Sufis say, yeah, you better put your mal where your mail is. You better put your wealth where your inclination is. and then you will go there. This is quoting Jesus, actually quoting the gospel. Put your treasure in heaven so that you will go to heaven, meaning put your attention, into the sacred. You see, but in this case, what happens is that he's collected all of the mal of the people, the possessions of the people, and he's melting it down. But Samiri notices that Jibril comes down and is trying to correct the situation. So he picks up some of the dirt and he throws it into the pot and it melts with the gold, and that's what he makes the calf out of. And Jibril is also called what?
Ruh.
Yeah, he's Ruh. He's Ruhullah, like Jesus. And what is the quality of Ruh? What is one of its qualities? Life. So somebody knows that if he throws the soil that Jibril has touched into the pot, then soon the calf is making the sound of a calf, you see. And the people see that it is like a calf that's alive, and so they pray to it. So they've been trapped by this ejl, this calf that has been created from the gold. And this is the wisdom of Aaron, is that he didn't interfere with this. And Moses was very angry when he came down because he saw what had happened. So we got that far, I think, last time. And tonight I'm trying to remind you of how you could be led astray by the roads. But if you were busy being insensitive to God's presence, to being lost in self-worship, wouldn't it be better to worship the rose? See, this is the point of being led astray. Being led astray in the right manner. This is what the Sufis mean by that. So in the passage, if we had the Masnavi, as I said, I would read to you the section where Rumi is talking about how this shepherd, the Chopan, is actually, his error is the essence of the truth, he says, Rumi says. And it's the essence of the truth, he says, God says, because I want burning. I want fire. Burning, 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 meaning I want passion. And you are the creature of passion. That's why he says, have you not seen him who has taken passion as a god? Remember last time we looked at the Quranic verse, And then God says, wa azalahu, or if you wish, wa adalahu for mudil, wa azalahu lahu ala'il. And God has led him astray with complete knowledge, led him astray, knowingly led him astray. This person. And the Sufis interpreted exactly the opposite of the mullahs, see? So the Sufis interpreted in this way that we're talking about now, like it was a good thing that happened to the person, that they were led astray. And so we're going to read further into the commentary, but I want to at least ask if you are having questions or difficulties with this doctrine. Nadia, John, are you having difficulties with this idea? Is it understandable? Anyone else have questions about this doctrine? Were you following this before? Did you see? Were you here last time, or did you see the you can see it on the video, the conversation, but it's about how one could be going astray, and it could be God's way of returning a person to the right path. And that I wanted to make sure that so much of Sufism is based around the idea of love, and that if a person is right, but they have no love, then they are no better than an angel, which is not bad, but is not the human purpose. See, because the human purpose is to love. And God says, yuhibuhum wa yuhibunahu. So all of his doctrine about who he really wanted, or when he says, I was a hidden treasure and I love to be known, he would only really be known by a creature who also could love. Because he says, I love to be known, and that I want a creature who is capable of loving. So what I'll do as usual is I'll read from this case I have with me. I don't have the Masnavi, but I have the Lahiji's book, because we also referred to that last time. The example given there, as you recall, is some famous lines that Shabastari wrote. Musulman gar bedanisti ki bud chist, bedanisti ki din dar bud parastis. Well, this is not, you would think that a Sufi shouldn't write something like that, right? Like, why would a Sufi write something like this? Just to make trouble? Or no, it's because they're worried that the ordinarily religious person is not really grasping the situation. The situation is that everything is in fact God inside. Has God inside. The rose is borrowing the beauty from God. See, Hubruyan Aine Hubiru. Ishke Ishan Akse Matlubi. It's all in that line right there, see? So God says, the beautiful ones, the beautiful ones, Hubruyan Aine Hubiru, are the mirror of God's beauty. Ishka Isham, the love for them, the love you can watch for 1,000 years, you can look into this rose. So the love for them is the reflection of God's desirability. This is desirable because God is desirable. God has wujud, we have no wujud. The subset of wujud is the divine names. The divine names include the beautiful names, beauty, God's beauty. See, so it's a simple idea. So if we just translate this for a minute, and Shabasari says, Musulman gar bedanisti ke gulchis, bedanisti ke din dar gul parastis. Okay? Then is it better? It's easy. Okay? The same idea. Musulman gar bedanisti ke gulchis, bedanisti ke din dar gul parastis. That's all Shabasari is saying. Because it's qabile ibadatas, it's worthy of worship, the beauty of God in the face of God. And for the human being, this is one aspect of worship, not the only aspect of worship. Because isn't it true that why do I call mullahs pirates? For what reason do I call them pirates? Other than the other obvious ones, but what's Why do I say that they're pirates? Because they have just one eye. They have one eye covered. And usually the eye they have covered is what? Tashbih. See, they are busy. They are trying to guide people properly. So they are trying to guide through tanzi. They'll say God is above the world. God is outside of the world. And so the Sufis say, today we would say a pirate because you're wearing a patch on one eye, but really it means a one-eyed person. And the problem with one-eyed vision, if we compare it to two-eyed vision, is that what's called stereoscopic vision is aware of depth perception. Agreed? Has a better awareness of depth perception. It not only has vision, because isn't it true, like, have you seen iguanas? They have two eyes, but they're like looking kind of all around like this, in different directions. Am I right? But the human being is looking ahead. We're not the only animals. Among the primates it's the same. But it's helpful to our intelligence that we have stereoscopic vision. So the problem is if you remove one or the other, you are limited. If someone is only worshiping the beauty of the flower, this is a problem. The problem is they are trapped in tashbih. This is what happens when, let's say, in this world, a man falls in love with a woman, or a woman falls in love with a man, and they become so absorbed in this that they they simply no longer are thinking about God. Whereas they were supposed to be thinking more about God. You see? They were supposed to know more about God in this case, but they know less about it because of their passion, the hawa. So the Sufis there, this morning we were talking Tanzi, were we not? The zikr was for the sake of Tanzi, am I right? We were going to completely erase all relations. This is the last thing we would be talking about this morning is zikr, am I correct? Yeah, we were focusing on Tanzi. And usually Tanzi is the preparation, because Tanzi would be like that somebody is serving some delicious soup, and Tanzi is that you find that the soup bowl, has yesterday's remains in it. It would be very unwise to just put the new soup in there. So first we should wash the bowl very, very much, remove everything from this bowl, make it completely empty. And then we should put the other soup in it. See? So Tanzi is emptying out, is nothing is there, only God is above everything. Everything else is empty. And now something fresh is poured in it, and this is Tashbih, the divine names are manifesting. Okay? So the problem that the mullah has with this doctrine is that they are focusing pretty exclusively on Tanzi because they're worried that the people will be led astray. There's only one problem, is that being led astray is a tricky business. It's a house of mirrors. Who is actually astray? Who is actually on the right path? And as I say to you, we will know eventually by the fruits, by the results of this. And going astray is, remember, a relationship with God. It is not our intent to make people go astray against their responsibilities to other people. It's a relationship to God. It's understanding how the things we are attracted to are caused by God's attractiveness. It's not an invitation to harm anyone. You see? It's an invitation to understand what's happening. And that God is guiding people astray knowingly, you see, for some purpose of His own. So I brought a Shabbos study, but actually what I want to do, since the conversation started with Sheikh Ibn Arabi, we'll go to this chapter where we left off. And as I recall, where we left off was about Rafi'u Darajat, am I right? Pretty sure we had already talked about this, huh? So, because I remember reading this passage to you guys, huh? و عبادت کرده نشد هیچ چیزی از عالم مگر بعد از تلبس بر رفعت و علوی درجات نزد عابدش و لذا حق سبحانه و تعالی نفس خود را تسمیه به رفیع و درجات کرد و رفیع و درجات نخواند. So and nothing has been worshipped in the world except that it has been clothed. It has been clothed in exaltation, in the raising up of it to a high degree in the eyes of its worshiper. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. See, so we see that it is clothed in this high degree of beauty on the eyes of this worshiper. It's so beautiful. All the evidence is it's too beautiful to be only from this world. Now, somebody may hate flowers and they may not agree, but as long as you are attracted to the flower and the beauty of the flower, you are mesmerized, we say. You are entranced by the beauty of it, and you can't really explain it. Like if you fall in love with someone, it's very intense because it's not just the beauty of the eyes, but it's the beauty of the heart and the beauty of being in many levels at once attracted. You see, so it has become clothed in this high level, this exalted level, is what he says. Now he comes to, and then I had quoted you, in fact, already from Afaraita man itakhadha ilahahu hawahu. Do you not see the one who takes for his God his own passion? See, do you not see this? Normally that would be considered a bad thing, but not for the Sufis, you see. Pas hawa azame ma'abud است از برای آن که هیچ چیز عبادت کرده نمی شود مگر به هوا و حق در مرتبه الوهیتش معبود نمی گردد مگر به ذاتش از آن که او معبود بالذات است همه ما سوا را و اما در مراتب صور کونیه معبود نمی شود مگر به واسطه سلطان هوا بر عابد و مگر به اخذ یا اخذ محبت آن چیز قلب عابد را چه همه اشیا ممکنند و هیچ کدام را وجود ذاتی نیست. So he's saying here that the greatest of all of the things worshipped is in fact passion, hawa, however one translate this, desire or hawa. And the reason for this is that nothing can actually be worshipped without passion. Now there's an interesting thing to think about. What does worship mean? And this is the difference between the angels and the human beings. Does the worship of the human being, does it usually involve emotion?
Yes.
Okay, good. Like how? In what manner would you say? Yes.
They get moved by it.
Yes. So you worship, and isn't it natural? Like, how do you feel like when you
You don't
worship?
even know why you're moved by it.
Yeah, like maybe you would even cry,
Right.
possible,
Longing.
but you are definitely, there's emotion, yes?
Yeah, there's some sort of attraction which you can't explain. What it
You
is.
can't explain, and this is the difference that we see in the discourse about the angels and God's explaining to the angels about Adam, that Adam has a broader range, and so yes, he will make mistakes. See, because they say, will you put on the earth someone who will make mischief? Well, isn't someone who will make mischief, it means someone who has a lot of potential, a lot of capacity, and therefore also has the capacity to fail, to make a mistake. In the way that Adam made a mistake, right? So this person is vulnerable, has a vulnerability. The human being has a vulnerability. The angels believe they don't have a vulnerability, so they come to represent, for Ibn al-Arabi, they come to represent, believe it or not, arrogance. Because they say, will you put on the earth somebody who will dispute? Someone who will dispute and question and make trouble? And Ibn Arabi says, just as the angels just did by asking God this question. See, he says they condemn themselves without realizing it. Sheikh Ibn al-Arabi says in the first chapter, Adam. So the angels, neither can they grasp Adam's reality, nor are they aware of their own sense of superiority. Right? And one of them completely falls, Iblis. Because he refuses to bow. The other ones are arrogant, but they agree, they bow to Adam, but not Iblis. So here he's saying, he says the greatest of all of the objects of worship is passion, because it is only through passion that worship is possible. There's this is going to remain a fundamental point for us. And that's why I say to you, if I had the Masnavi in front of me, you can go look it up yourself. When he comes to the story of the shepherd, Chubang, he's saying that God is saying to Moses, you really think that people's worship can reach me? Their worship cannot comprehend me. He says, you really think their purity, their being impure will affect me? Their impurity will not affect me. He says, I want fire, burning, burning, burning. You see? Isn't this passion? This is passion. So this is in that part of the story. Now later in the stories, we know actually these are journeys. Remember that Tashbih and Tanzi, there's actually a circle. And one is traveling back and forth between Tashbih and Tanzi, between immanence and transcendence, for those of you who aren't completely familiar with these words. So in English, immanence means that God is right here with us in this rose, in our humanity towards each other, in our creating justice in the world, etc. God is right here with us, you see? This is immanence. Transcendence means that God has no connection to this. He is outside of the worlds and he has nothing to do with this. Or that he is the essence, as this latest commentary said. So he said this, regarding this commentary, he said passion, he says, because God at the level of divinity cannot become such a object of worship, because by definition this is an essence and it is not to be objectified. Okay? It can only be known, essentially, it cannot be objectified in a form that you could turn to with worship and passion. It is not susceptible to that. Then he goes on to say, he says, but at the level of form, of the forms of this universe, he becomes an object of worship. Becomes an object of worship and can only become an object of worship by way of the dominance of passion over the servant. So the servant sees something in this world. Did we not, when we looked at our Ustad, were we not filled with passion that made him clothed in divinity, to where we would listen to his teaching and consider him to be God's sign to us? Yes or no? Yes. Do they not call people in that position, if they really have authority, don't they call them Ayatollah? They call them Ayatollah. They call them the sign from God, right? Is it not okay to do that? Yes, it's okay to do that if nobody makes the mistake of actually thinking it's identical with the God that is not manifested, right? But, so there's a fine line. But if you are trapped in a well, you better take the hand of whoever reaches the hand down to pull you out, you see? And if you are unable to recognize the transparency of an angel's hand, you better at least grab a human hand to pull you out of the well. See, so that's the whole sense of this, is that people are more often than not more lost than they realize already. So to become lost from being lost is not such a bad thing. And that's what again, he's saying that all of this is taking place through passion, through Hawa. And Hawa is very much a part of Sufism. It's not a part of every spirituality, is it? No, it is not a part of some spirituality. It is certainly part of Sufism. Doesn't mean that other spirituality is bad or wrong, it just means it's a different path. Because in our path, what was the shortest way that Ustad said?
Love.
Love. Love is passion. Well,
How did they get?
well, do you know much about Hinduism? So one of the finest descriptions of God we will see in the Hindu religion. And they say God is Satchitanand. Have you ever heard of Satchitanand? So it's 3 words. Sat, Chit, Anand. Sat means wujud, being. Chit means shuhud, awareness. Anand means emotion, bliss, feeling, you see. So God is all of those 3 things in Hinduism. That's why in Hinduism the paths are divided up, and you may have a person following the path of spiritual knowledge. This they call the Jnana Yoga. The Jnana Yogi is the person following this path, you see. And the person following the path of action is the Karma Yogi. And but the person following the path of love is called the Bhakti Yogi. So this is a variety of passion, is it not? So the Bhakti Yoga says that use bhakti, use love to approach God. But in Sufism, it's very normal. Now, what about the other people? Is your question? Well, they can approach God by way of seeing. They're actually related to each other. You see, like the best way in Hinduism is called Raja Yoga. Means the king of yogas. It means the yoga that includes all 3 of the paths at once. And Sufism is really like that. Sufism requires insight and clarity. On the one hand, detachment, tajrid. Have you heard of tajrid? So complete detachment. Detachment does not have hawa. So tajrid, if we are looking in the domain of tanzi and tashbih, to be honest with you, it's more efficient to first do tanzi. In Sufism, this is called fana. It's more efficient because then you already are clear and empty, and now you are more able to not become lost in the forms even while you re-enter the world of the forms. Whereas if you go the way of tashbih, it may be that you have no way to go through tanzi. So maybe that's why God will cause some uptight, arrogant mullah to fall in love with someone and go and have an affair and fall into the gutter of error to save the poor guy. The problem is that tanzi on its own, it unfortunately leads to, it can lead to fanaticism, rigidity, cruelty, and a person is not aware that they have lost compassion. You see, now in Buddhist spirituality, speaking of compassion, they may not stress love, but they always stress compassion, do they not? They stress compassion. There's a kind of meditation called metta, which is all it's about is love and compassion for all the creatures of the world. So even though they don't worship God, they still understand that there is detachment and then there is love. And in the Sufi way, to be honest with you, it's not so much a matter of choice, it's a matter of possibility. So we see that it's not possible, or God sees it's not possible for a person to succeed through tanzi. So he sends them on the path of tashbih, and he causes them to fall in love with something that is clothed. Did you hear the language earlier in Persian? Clothed in divinity. As you see that, you say, this cannot be human. This cannot be earthly. Yes, it grew from the earth, but it cannot be from the earth. Because I stand in front of it, and I'm in hayrat, they say, Sufis say. I'm in perplexity. How can it be from the earth? Clearly it is from the heavens. Wasn't that Zuleika's revenge? Was it not her revenge? Was she not somebody who was led astray? Did that turn out in the long run to be a bad thing or good thing for Zuleika? Well, there you go. This doctrine is in the Quran. You see what I'm trying to say? So what did she say? Like, what was the criticism of her?
The criticism from her peers?
Yeah.
That she's crazy, she lost her mind.
Look at her. She's going after the servant boy
Yeah.
in her household. Like looking down at her, huh? Because they are so good. They are so proper. They are so perfect, huh? Not really. They're full of pride, huh? They say, look at her. In other words, that's why the Sufis, they are called also Aib Push or Aib Pushan. What's Aib Pushan?
Wear faults.
Yes, to either wear the fault or hide the faults also. So normally when we say Aib Push, we say, believe me, if you want some bad luck, then you will reveal the fault of other people. You're in for a lot of bad luck. If you want good luck, conceal the faults of other people. And God says he will conceal your faults. So they were not Aib Push, huh? Aib Push also means that you should wear the fault instead, huh? But you should also hide the fault of the other people. So in this case, this is a Quranic story that exactly explains what we're talking about. Because people will still object to this doctrine. They will object to it and say, well, tell me, what do you think the story of Yusuf was about? What happened with Zuleika? Was she astray? Yes, she was astray. What was guiding Zuleika when she was astray? Passion. And she says, because I have himma. Now that's interesting. She doesn't say, there's hawan there, but when you ask them, when God asks them, or when they're explaining, she said, I had himma for him. What's himma? It's supposed to mean spiritual focus, right? But spiritual focus, as I pointed out in lectures, is really love and passion. And what does Joseph confess in that Quranic verse? He confesses something.
He also had him.
That he says, I also have himma, but I defer out of fear of my Lord. What does he fear from his Lord? Don't forget, there's responsibility. He knows this is the wife of his boss. He knows this is wrong. In other words, there's time when maybe passion is legitimate, and there's times it's illegitimate. So he behaves according to, he acknowledges that he has passion. He doesn't lie or conceal that. Has he not also been led astray by passion? Yes. See, he has the correct attitude. He is led astray because he has passion for his boss's wife, but he absolutely refuses to do anything about it. She, on the other hand, decorates her villa, you see. And what does she decorate her villa with? with every room has another picture of herself. So no matter what room he goes in, this is fascinating. What does the room normally mean in the knowledge of symbolism? It's the self. He goes into the room of intellect and she is smart. He goes into the room of imagination and she is beautiful. He goes into the room of instinct and he is full of desire and she is full of desire. No matter what room he goes in, there is her picture. You see? So it's beautiful symbolism. But she has desire for him, and he is Sufi, he is dervish, he's a prophet actually, peace be upon him. And so he is the dervish throughout. He has to suffer. He eventually goes to jail. But part of this sad story of being led astray is that all along God is guiding them through this being led astray. And he's also guiding Zulekha. Does Zulekha not go through some transformation? Do we not see in the story how she goes through a transformation? Doesn't she actually become crazy? And she only can say the name Joseph, Joseph, Joseph. And she is reborn because she finally experiences Fanal. So she experiences Tashbih first and Tanzi after that. That's what I'm trying to say to you. See, some people, it's the only way they can go. So she goes through passion, desire. It's wrong. It has suffering. But ultimately it has a good result, which is that she is burned up by her own fire, basically. She thought the fire would burn him, instead it burned her, which was a good thing, it turns out, see, because it was burning her nafs. But what was her revenge?
Well, the night.
Yeah, because all of these think about it, the story of Zulekha and Yusuf alayhi salam is known, but what about the story of, 100, 200 women? What is their story? Well, boy, the doctors are going to be busy that night, huh? So that you've got, she brings Joseph out, and they tell the truth, what I just told you. What do they say? They tell the truth. What do they say about him? They say he's not a human being. He cannot be a human being. What do they say he is? He's an angel. He cannot be a human being. And they have hayrat. Remember I said hayrat. It's like I told you, believe me, all you need is a little bit of zikr, and you can spend 1,000 years looking at this rose, you see. Because of hayrat, because of perplexity. Or if you prefer, wa'azalahu lahu ala ilm, and God makes him go astray knowingly, through knowledge. This is part of this verse that we saw earlier, which most people assume that God is knowing that he's going to punish them and they are just sinners and they're going to go to hell. And the Sufis don't agree with that assessment. You see, they think that, like Zulekha, she is being guided astray knowingly. And same thing with Joseph. He is being guided astray knowingly. He is more of a Sufi and a dervish because he doesn't give way to his desires. And then there's always some Sufi around to clarify the matter. In this case, it's a woman Sufi, an old woman. What does she say? So there's always somebody in the story that's like a voice of wisdom and insight. In this case, it's an old woman. And so it's very funny. In all of these stories, there's this person. So she says, well, I suggest you look to see whether it is the back of his shirt that's torn or the front of his shirt. And if it's the front of his shirt that's torn, then yes, she was resisting him while he was trying to rape her or seduce her. But if you see that the shirt is torn in the back, you will know that he was telling the truth and he was trying to run away, and she's the one who tore his shirt from the back. And of course, that's what had happened. And so she was disgraced, and that's how she ended up being the laughingstock of these arrogant women who thought they were on the right path. They found out that they didn't really grasp the situation. Because the minute he's brought out, they finally grasp the situation, agreed? All, however many of them there are. They grasp that he is not an earthling. He's not a human being. He cannot be a human being. It puts you in hayrat, and the proof of hayrat is you are so in awe that you don't feel yourself cutting yourself when you're cutting the fruit, you see. So isn't it interesting, though, isn't the nafs feminine? So she would represent really the nafs. Yes.
I'm just thinking about desirability, and even desirability for God.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there that's a selfish component in that? Like, there is beauty,
Mm-hmm.
and I desire it, I want it.
Yeah.
But then, I want it for what? Because it gives me pleasure.
Well, yes. In other words, if it is based on instinct alone, which is what they thought, the women thought it was based on instinct. And the story seems to be heading that way until they bring Joseph out in front of the women, and then they suddenly grasp something, that he represents a beauty that transcends the world. And they have a little bit more insight into it. So, of course, there's levels to this, but isn't it true that she was sort of half-baked at that point? She was more a slave to her own instinct. But wasn't Joseph's beauty strong enough to burn her up and actually burn away the instinctive element, and to leave her completely with the element of seeing divinity and being perplexed and only saying his name over and over again, not out of any personal desire? She's long past that, don't you think?
Yeah.
She's cooked. See, she's cooked by the beauty of Joseph. The Quranic stories, like I said to you, remember, we're talking about Aaron and Moses, and Moses is Tanzi and Aaron is Tashbih. In each one of us is Aaron and Moses. In each one of us is Joseph and Zulaykha. Zulaykha represents nafs. Nafs, at first, of course, is attracted for the wrong reasons. And God has led nafs astray knowingly. That's exactly what it means that God leaves him astray knowingly. Knowing that, watch out, because you will see what you thought you wanted, you're going to get a lot more than that. Simple version for Moses, he says, I need fire. He sees a fire on the hill. God says, oh, you want a fire? Here, we'll make a little fire over here for you. Moses goes up there, does he get only fire? No, he gets way more than he wanted, doesn't he? So, this is the way of God. Is God, in the story of Moses and the fire, the Sufis say that God attracts you according to what you desire. And the story of Moses seeing the fire is proof of that. And God attracted Moses with the thing that he wanted, that he desired. And he said he wanted two things. He was hoping to find fire, and he was hoping to get some information. I says, oh, I'll give you a little bit of information here. You come on up here and we'll wash away yourself, and you will come and you will be in Hayrat, because you will arrive at a place and God will say, take off your shoes, come here. And there'll be a bush that's burning, a paradoxical bush that's saying, Inni an Allah, surely I am God. It's like, whoa, I thought God was beyond the worlds. How can you, this bush, be talking to me saying, truly I am God? Isn't this a sin? Am I not a sinner? Is not Satan speaking to me through this bush? Right? So the line between error being lost and not lost is a very difficult line, and we only know, as I say, from the fruit. What is the fruit? Let the story develop, let the story unfold. And as the story unfolds, it does seem like Zulekha is nafs and she is astray in her instinctive desire for the physical beauty of Joseph. Ultimately, she is cooked by God's supreme beauty manifesting through the form of Joseph. Has God not led her astray knowingly? Yes, he's led her astray knowingly. He represents the different aspect of the soul. He represents the mind, and he represents the inner spirit that is nevertheless is in the individual form. And this is called the spirit that God attributes to himself. And why do they say that? So they say Rui Idafi, Rui Mudafi means attributed to himself, because he says Nafaktu fihi min ruhi. God says min ruhi, meaning from my spirit I blew into him. So God attributes the spirit to himself that he blew into Adam and into every human being. And so when it's blown into the human being, it is like the light that inhabits a chandelier. It is light, but it is seen through the chandelier. Maybe they're more likely to notice the chandelier, don't you think? So this is the intellect and the faculties of the person, and she represents the naf. She is capable of being seduced by beauty, and he is more the angelic, she is more the human in this case. Together they make the human. So they are in each one of us.